Helen Townsend is an artist from Fremantle in Western Australia whose music is a fusion of roots rock, blues, country, and folk. With her band, the Wayward Hearts, she's on tour in New South Wales, Western Australia, and Victoria throughout August and September, with her new album, Take It or Leave It, released on the 2nd of August. So there's quite a bit to talk about there. Hello, Helen.
I know. Thanks for having me on. Hi.
It's great to talk to you. I've actually just been looking at your music videos, so I'm going to ask you about those as well. But I'm going to start by saying your previous album, Little Lover, came out in 2019. Did you leave it a little while before you started writing this new album?
Um, I had started writing actually a lot of the songs during the same time because I also released a little EP in between the two albums. So I kind of got distracted a little bit. I met Shannon Smith, and we wanted to tour just as a duo, and we thought we'll just do a little demo of what we're like as a duo so that we can get gigs across over East and just say, well, this is us as a duo, so engage us anyway. And that became a bit more than just a little demo EP, and we ended up releasing it in states and touring that album, and so then everything just got pushed back. And so as I was writing these songs and realizing that they weren't good for a duo, and we would keep them for my album, and Shannon was writing songs as well, and so we just kind of got slightly distracted by something that wasn't meant to be as big as what it went.
But it sounds like the best possible way to get distracted, because it was successful and you got to tour with it.
I know. It was great. It was really good. And, it's hard, when you first start recording something and you're thinking that you just want to make it as a demo. But when you're used to having other people come in and play stuff, like, we had it very simple to begin with, but then it's like, oh, that'd sound really good with pedal steel on it, or that'd sound good with dobro on it. What about James Church? He could play on it, so we just kind of built on it. We didn't mean to, but it just became that way. And so then that took a lot longer to get through, and then the album was able to be worked on, so yeah.
And I noticed, just in terms of you talking about the songs you were writing, you have written most of the songs on the album solo, and the others are with Helen Shanahan, I think. So clearly, for your own material, you usually work alone.
I actually have Belle Harvey is on two of them as well. Unfortunately, on the album cover, I actually forgot to put her name on one of them, so that's a big blue on my part. But Helen Shanahan helped me with Questions and Melbourne Streets, and Belle Harvey helped me with The Show Must Go On and Indian Ocean Road.
Right.
And yeah, we call her my Bernie Taupin. And we basically, with Belle, I write the lyrics, and I have a bit of an idea as to what vibe I want it, and I'll send her off some poem or something and say, just make this a Steve Earle vibe or a blah blah blah, and she'll come back with like the vibe. So she'll compose it more than I will when we work together, but I'll normally do all the lyrics and just kind of refine them to suit her composition.
Mm-hmm.
But with Helen, I was stuck with a few things with the bridges. So basically on Questions and Melbourne Streets, Helen helped me with just creating a nice little bridge, and the lyrics for the bridge as well. So yeah, she's definitely had a very, even though it doesn't sound like much, like, bridges can be the be all and end all.
Well, yeah, they are a very important part of a song, particularly in these sorts of structures.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question on the tip of my tongue, and then I've completely derailed myself. And what I'm going to talk about is the latest single, Demons. And we can hear in the vocal how much that story means to you. It's a really powerful vocal. And I was wondering, as I was listening to it, whether it's difficult to document something that strong when you're both the writer and the singer of it.
Yeah, it's that was a tough one. Somebody really close to me was struggling with addiction and everything that comes around addiction, and his inner demons that make him go that way. And so writing that was a bit of a plea to them, because I really wanted to help, like whenever you see somebody struggling and you want to pull them out of what could be a better world for them, and you can see all the mistakes and everything that they're doing that are trapping them in that place. And I just wanted to shine a light and just kind of try and drag them away from that torture that he was putting himself through, and beg him to let me help him, so it was
Yeah.
a tough one.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of compassion in the way you sing it. So it's obviously all coming from a place of love.
Yeah, well, I think he knows that, although he has told me recently that he doesn't like to listen to it.
Right. Okay.
It's a bit
Well,
too close to home.
now that single was released as part of an EP earlier this year, and the track next to it is Baby Come Home, which is a completely different proposition. So I'm
Yeah,
guessing it was a deliberate juxtaposition.
absolutely. Yeah, the all of my songs on the album are actually, they've kind of got their own personality, and I really wanted them to have that. I didn't want to, like, I write from a place that I feel at the time. I'm not really writing to create a sound across a whole album or anything like that. Like, my songs are written at a particular moment in time with a particular vibe in mind, and I kind of like to give them that personality in their own right. So all, like, out of the 11 tracks, like, they're all a bit different. There's a pop song and a country song and a dark song, and they're just it's all over the show. And I suppose it's a bit eclectic, but that's the way I kind of like it. I didn't really want to take that away from each one.
Well, and it's also the fact that you're documenting different experiences of love and the pain that comes from love. And so obviously you're going with where the story needs to go in terms of how you present it musically.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I am a bit of a love junkie, so I and I experienced, I'm 53. I've had a couple of marriages, and it's all about relationships for me, and I'm a bit of an observer of how everyone works, and I like to kind of go in deep and figure out how I can do better next time. And like, having all these weird relationships of so many different types is like, and I mean that not just my personal relationships, I mean that with, like, friends and family and and lovers, like all the sorts that you can have.
Yeah. Well, it's all good material as well.
Uh-huh. I know sometimes that we have to go through the hardest times to get the best songs, huh?
Yes, that can be true. And then turn them to good. It's a bit of a Rumpelstiltskin thing almost. It's like you got to spin it into gold.
Yeah, yeah. That's whenever a friend or there's a songwriter is going through a hard time, everyone always says, "Oh, it's good. It's good topics for you to work with. It's good." I don't know. When you go through it, I don't think it is that good, but
Well, and
it
it's
turns out that way.
yeah, but I suppose also it's a question of what the songwriting process is like for you, whether you feel that in the writing of it you're actually coming to understand some things, or just getting it out of your system, or whether the writing itself is a continuation of the experience.
Yeah, for me it is definitely. Like, I also write poetry, and that whole process is just me getting out everything I need to get, whether it be anger or grief or excitement or happiness, like every single one of them. So yeah, I've written so many poems and so many songs that just don't really make it into music or to music, but they're there, and it definitely helps me process and figure out what the hell's going on.
So with this album, was it that you had these songs written and you thought, okay, these belong as a collection, or are there quite a few that didn't make it onto the album?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch that didn't make it, for sure. I had a whole collection and that I'd been writing, and the beginning of last year we were lucky enough to have a guy called Phil Richardson. Was it last year? No, the year before. Come to town, and he was from England, and he's an amazing piano player who plays the keys on the album. And he was here because his wife is a doctor, and she was at Fremantle Hospital for 1 year. And so he was just doing the old dad, like home dad thing, and he had heaps of spare time. So he was like, yeah, I'll play in your band. And he played with so many people. In the year that he was here, he ended up with like so many friends. He played in so many people's albums. And we were lucky enough to have him in the band and help do the pre-prod and all the work with me on getting the songs to pre-production stage. And then we went to Rada Studios and worked with Dan Carroll, who added his extra flair as well, and Ben Franz as well on bass and co-producing as well. So it was a real collective process, and yeah, it was great fun, and lucky enough to have Phil there, who was just phenomenal keyboard player to help me get it to where it is.
And you are one of the producers of the album too. So do you enjoy the producing process?
I really enjoy the producing process, actually. I like I'm not a real technical musician. I'm late to the craft, really. Like, I didn't start until I was 40. And so I used to call myself a campfire girl, you know, so I can strum well, and I can keep time, and I know my chords and all that sort of thing, but I'm not overly technical. But I do find that when we're going through the process of production, there's certain things that I hear, and that I know what I want, but I don't know how to ask for it. I just know when people will give me a vibe, like they'll give me something, and I'll be like, no, that's not what I want. Maybe a bit more, you know, I'll explain it like a bit more like you're under the sky with sparkly stars. and so they'll have to give me the feel rather than the actual technical detail of what exact chord or note to play. So yeah, I need people that have those skills to translate my airy fairy explanation into an actual piece of music.
Now, you said you came late to music at the age of 40. Now, that's a stage of life when most people's interests are fixed, actually, where they think, well, I've got my hobbies and I'm doing this job, and I think I know who I am. So I love the fact that at that age you actually shifted and changed to something that you were not already doing. So how did you arrive at music at that age?
Well, I was I did have a guitar. Like, I went traveling when I was about 24, and I was away for 3 years. I bought a guitar in London, and I just would ask any of the backpackers that were traveling at the time to teach me a song. So I had been playing, but I fell pregnant in America. I got married by an Elvis impersonator. I came home pregnant, and then I all of a sudden had a baby. There's no way in the world I could actually put any effort into playing guitar, and so I just put it all aside for many years. And then you know, I had another baby, got married again, because of course, amazingly, my wedding in Vegas didn't actually last. So I got married again, and then I had another baby, and so I just, you know, just family got in the way, and there's no way in the world I had any idea that I would end up writing my own songs. I had been journaling while I was away, from like the time of when I was 24. And so there was a lot of journaling, a lot of writing, a lot of questioning, a lot of poetry. And so it just took me forever to actually write my first song, because I just felt like everything that I was writing had been said before, or the way in which I was writing, or the melody sounded like something that I was too familiar with. And so I just could never, ever get that out of my system to even be confident to write an actual song. And then one day while I was bathing my daughter, I would play guitar while she was having a bath, and all of a sudden a song came to me, and I was like, oh, that's how you do it. So then it just opened the floodgates, and I was able to put music to my poetry, just for want of a better kind of expression. But yeah, so when I came to Perth, and to Fremantle particularly, there were so many people here that were all like really supportive of getting up and playing music and encouraging me. So without them, I don't think I could have done it. But yeah, so now I get to play with some amazing musicians over here, and in a really supportive environment and community. So it's great.
So you mentioned putting music to your poetry. Do you still think of your songwriting as, you know, the lyrics first, writing it like poetry, and then setting it to music?
Yeah, I think I kind of always have like a little bit of a topic in that's, you know, that might be sitting there for quite some time before it actually comes out in a song. And depending on the moment, I'll pick up the guitar and try and just noodle away and see what comes to me. And then there's always, I feel like there's a bank of stories that songwriters that I have anyway, that when I find the right chord progression or the right kind of melody, all of a sudden that will just go whoom and just come out quite easily. And then there's the refinement after that is the horrible part. But yeah, that initial part, if I suppose I just kind of walk around with like all these ideas and stories that just wait for a channel to get it out of me.
Yeah. Have you learnt that it's a matter of sort of just waiting for that natural vacuum, for lack of a better term, where you might be, it's probably when you're driving the car or something like that, where there's just that still space and the song's going to rush in and then you have to rush to find a way to document it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm not very good at sitting down, and Shannon has quite often said to me in the past, "Come on, let's sit down and write a song," and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it, and he's like, "Oh no, come on, we can do it." I'm like, "No, we can't." So, which is partly why he's actually got an album and I've got an album now, because he was originally like, "Let's write an album together or write some songs together," and I'm like, "You write your songs, I'll write my songs, and then we'll come together and we'll understand how each other writes and what we like to write about and see whether or not it actually comes together." Mm-hmm. So we've written like 1 or 2 songs together so far, but we don't play them out yet. We haven't really worked them up enough. So yeah, it's a different process for so many people. Hey, it's always so different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really depends on knowing your own nature as a songwriter as well, and knowing, like as you said, not to obey that command to sit down and write or book a time to write. It's like, your nature as a songwriter is not to produce in that kind of environment.
Yeah. I quite often I've gone to a songwriting retreat in Bali with a woman called Jane Corns, who was a local artist here, and she'd put on it would be a 10-day. I would stay for 10 days, and I think the course was about 5 or 6 days. So she'd give you little prompts, and you'd have to like go away and write a chorus or a verse overnight or whatever you could, and come back the next day and present it to the group. And I've always been a little bit of an overachiever. So I was always kind of like, "Oh, I'm going to get a whole song out, and come back to the group." There was always work to be done on it, and questions. Actually, this one of the songs on the album is a product of the Bali trip. And so for me, I just need to be away from my work, from my family, I need to be in solitude and just kind of delving right into the whole process so that I can enjoy it and actually relax into it,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you have talked about when you started writing songs and meeting musicians in your area and them encouraging you, but I'm wondering how you felt about performing when you started to do that.
Oh, I was scared shitless, actually. Basically, my daughter's 18, and when I was pregnant with her, I did a course, and there was part of it that I had to get up and present my findings or whatever to the group. And I was so scared to do it that the teacher was like, "You're going to lose all your marks, or 20% of your marks, if you don't get up and do it." And I'm like, "I don't want the marks. Just don't make me stand up in front of anyone." So she's 18, that was 18 years ago. And I started to get to the point where I was so scared to actually stand up in front of people and talk about anything in front of people that the fear of it, I could just feel the fear actually bothering me more than the actual doing of it. Mm-hmm. And so the regret of not having done something was just so overwhelming after I really wanted to do it. So I would go to open mics, or I would go see people play that would say, "Get up and sing a song," and I'd be like, "No, I can't, I can't," So I used to get so disappointed with myself that I didn't do it, that when I got here and there was an open mic that we went to, and I went with my husband and my kids, and a local poet here called Peter Cap asked my husband if he wanted to get up and sing a song, and He said, no, but my wife will. And at that point, I knew one song without a book, and I had to borrow someone's guitar to get up and sing. And I thought, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. And it was a song, it was a Merle Haggard song,
Right.
and called Big City, which is on my Little Lover album. And that's why it's on my Little Lover album, because it was the song that got me started over here. And yeah, I got up and sang that song, and everybody was really supportive and encouraging. And about 3 or 4 months later, we went back, and Peter saw us and he said, get up and sing another song. And I was like, I still only know the same song. So he's like, well, get up and do it again.
Right.
So I got up and did again that time. And then I thought, this is kind of cool. You know, people are really good and supportive. So maybe I should go home and learn a couple more. So I went home, learned a couple more cover songs, and then came back. And I always had like somebody accompanying me, like there was a double bass player and a fiddle player. So it was good, because I'd come from Sydney and to over here, and it just so happened that like within a 3-minute walk to my house, there was a place called the Hilton Park Bowling Club that had bluegrass and country music and people like Ian Simpson playing banjo. And I was like, how on earth did I stumble across this, you know? So it was a really good environment for me to actually learn to perform, and incredibly supportive. And because the whole Hilton Park Bowling Club is full of musicians of some sort, whether they're upcoming or has been, you know, performers and touring artists, you know, they're incredibly supportive. And every time I would come off and, you know, be the whole, oh, you know, I made a mistake or whatever, they just go, shut up. Nobody notices. You did great. So it was really good.
And in fact, I read a quote from you that said, so am I afraid of failure now? No way. I know it doesn't exist. There is no failure, only lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've learned a lot, and we actually have been running a band jam over here, because I want people to not feel how I did. You know, it was so limiting for me to feel like getting up on stage and making a mistake or saying the wrong thing was actually going to be impacting. Like it would just ruin me, you know? And so I was so afraid of it. It was just so debilitating. And I just want people to feel comfortable with actually making mistakes, because we all do. And it's, you know, I can remember seeing Justin Townsend playing here at the Rosemount, and he started a song in the wrong key. And the bass player was like, hey, you know, and Justin was like, I better change my position in my capo, you know. And I was like, oh, he does it too. That's great. You know? So, you know, it gives you confidence to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the band jam that we've been doing, the whole purpose is that to get people up with other people just on the spot, some with seasoned musicians and some not with seasoned musicians, and we'll basically just get up there and jam along and back somebody to lead a song. And you know, it's to kind of purposely make people feel uncomfortable, because it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's such a lesson in them getting the confidence to understand that even though it wasn't perfect, you had a good time, and that's what matters to the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, because then they have a good time.
Yeah.
On stage, yeah. So it seems an appropriate point, since you're talking about a band jam, to talk about your band and ask who is in it and how they came to be in it.
So my drummer is Warren Harvey, and he was a friend's drummer, basically. And well, I needed a drummer for a festival gig, and I asked him if he'd come along and be my drummer for that gig. And then I needed a drummer for the next gig, and I'm like, can you be my drummer? So it just kind of organically became my drummer. Dave Johnson is my mandolin player, and he's an amazing singer-songwriter himself. And he's one of the original, like, supportive people that would back me up when I wanted to go play a little solo show or something, and then last minute would, you know, get a bit scared or something, and I'd call him and go, come and join me, you know, and help me out. So he'd come and play mandolin for me. And then we've got Lucas Murphy, who is my guitarist. It's actually Lucas's last tour with us, and last performance is my launch on the 15th of August at Freo Social. He's leaving to go traveling with his beautiful wife, who's lent him to us for 6 years. So I've had a good round with him. So we're allowing her to take him away from us. albeit a bit sad. But yeah, our Sydney tour will have Lucas with us, which is going to be great. And then Shannon Smith, my partner, who plays bass. Again, another singer-songwriter, and he plays guitar as well and writes his own stuff. But I couldn't have two guitarists in the band, so the band was just getting too big, and I wanted a keys player, so Shannon's on bass. And Julian Anderson, who is my newest member to the band, and he came in after we'd written the album with Phil, and Phil went back to England. So Julian Anderson is a ball of happiness, actually. He's a 24-year-old joyful fella, and he just, the whole lot of them are really, really supportive and great guys to hang out with, and really supportive of my music. So they are an awesome band.
Well, and it's great you do get on with them, because you have to travel all the way across the country to get to New South Wales and Victoria. So you are playing those states as well as WA. Are they all venues that are new to you, or have you played some before?
No, I have, believe it or not, like, I'm from Sydney. I left Sydney in 2008. I lived in Melbourne for about 14 months, and both, like, I hadn't been playing back then. So this is my first trip back to Sydney to play any shows, and I get to bring the whole band with me. So I'm more than excited to share what I've got with the Sydney audience. And they're all venues that actually in Sydney, the only venue that I've been to before is the Merton Hotel. On the Saturday night we're playing there, but the others, like Shady Pines wasn't around when I was there, Gasoline Pony wasn't around, the Midnight Special wasn't around, and nor the Golden Barley was, but I hadn't been to that venue. So yeah, I'm really excited to play all of them.
And the Midnight Special, I think, is a duo show, so that'll be a slightly different permutation, so people could see you in a band show and then see you in a duo.
Yeah, and we'll do the duo shows. We love the duo shows as well, because we get to throw in a few Dave Rawlings, Gillian Welsh songs, and like all the really classic duets that we like to cover as well. So it'll feature Shannon a little bit more than the actual band shows will. But yeah, it's going to be a great time.
So the album title is Take It or Leave It. Is there anything in your life to which that applies at the moment? I'm guessing not music. I'm guessing you have to take music. You can't leave it.
Yeah, the title basically came around because I wanted to make all the songs like their own personality, and I didn't want to kind of try and conform to any expectation that I felt like whether there are those expectations or not. You know, it's just what I feel like needs to happen in music delivery, or, you know, there's so many rules and so many things coming out saying, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and it's just so overwhelming. I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can try and comply with all these expectations that are or are not there, but I was feeling like they were there. And one of the lyrics in Melbourne Streets, you can take and you can give, but if you don't like what you find, go and leave it all behind. Right. So I felt like it's more like, you know, well, this is what I've got to offer. And, you know, if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, well, you don't like it. Not everybody's going to like it, but I hope some people do.
Well, it is the case you can't please all of the people all the time, but I do think on this album you have a gamut of human experience, and also you as we've discussed, different styles to deliver it. Some of the songs, there's one song that has quite a lot of backup voices on it, and then there are quite a few different moods. And I'm interested, when you perform these songs, if you feel that you're connecting to the way you felt when you wrote them, or if you've developed a way to preserve your own energy, I guess, for some of those darker songs, that you don't expend too much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, again, because my band make me feel so comfortable, and they will give everything a go. Like, I've got 4 singers in the band. Wow. And so we can do the Melbourne Streets with that. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to, the backing singers. So they were the McCrary sisters from the US, but we now just call my guys the Hairy McCrarys, so that we can actually get them to sing correctly. Like, they just become a gospel choir. And my guitarist Lucas is a really lovely finger picker, so I just hand him my acoustic guitar when it comes down to things like questions, and we just bring it right down. And the support that I get from them is just so extensive in every way that they kind of allow me to go through those waves of each of the songs and deliver them in the mood that they're actually intended for. So that's, you know, if I didn't have them and feel comfortable with them, I don't think I could do it. But I feel really comfortable with my band, so it's a lot easier.
Well, it sounds like whoever comes to those shows will have a very rich musical experience, as they will do if they listen to the album, take it or leave it. Helen Townsend, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on, Sophie. I really appreciate it.